No YouTube genre has seen more popularity than the iconic Let's Play. The simple concept of filming oneself play a game is essentially synonymous with YouTube, stretching all the way from a couple guys sat on their couch recording gameplay through to multi-million-dollar companies, churning out a variety of content with machine-like consistency. The channel we're talking about today is a case of the former evolving into the latter. Starting out as a pair of friends playing games for fun, but transforming into an entertainment monolith, barely resembling the format it once came from. It's a long and complicated journey, full of love, hate, and a whole lot of gamer-related drama. But all you need to know is that one was Grump, and one was not so Grump. And together, they were... It's going to be kind of hard to talk about the Game Grumps as a singular entity. There are like 50 different side characters dropping in and out at any given time, so please forgive me if things get a bit name-soupy. I'll try my hardest to keep things as clear and concise as possible. There's already a lot of content talking about why Grump bad, but in this video, instead of just recapping controversies, I'm going to go through things in chronological order to try and paint a truly complete picture of who the Grumps truly are. To tell the story of the Game Grumps, we have to start with the longest running host, Aaron Hansen, aka Egoraptor. Egoraptor was born January 6, 1987 in Margate, Florida. His father, Lloyd Hansen, was a musician, setting the groundwork early for Aaron to aspire to a creative career. From a very young age, he decided he wanted to do something creative with his life. His earliest experimentation with animation would be small flipbooks and stop-motion films made with his action figures that he would premiere to his family. He would also grow a passion for music, specifically the genre of parody music. Remember this, it'll be coming up later. During his early teens, he would first create the Egoraptor name, first using it as a name for his OC, before eventually adopting it as his online pseudonym.
This is the original Egoraptor. So those of you who don't know, Egoraptor was a character and he was a raptor. He was a character I went by, and he had like a tooth and he had like spikes and shit and he had a metal plate on his head. It was stupid and hilarious.
As with all great creatives, Aaron was never well suited towards the traditional academic path. Aaron claims that despite hating school, he tested well, despite never really applying himself in any of his studies. This apathy towards school would come to a head when his family moved, and he was forced to switch high schools to one in a rougher neighborhood. But neither him nor his parents were that thrilled about him attending.
Yeah?
I didn't even finish high school.
No shit.
Yeah.
You're a high school dropout?
Yeah.
Oh, Aaron, am I fucking hanging out with a bad kid?
I went into school and they didn't have a curriculum for me.
Right.
I spent the whole first day just sitting in an office, like, waiting for somebody to give me some fucking thing to do.
Right.
And then eventually, like, at the end of the day, they were just like, oh, you got transferred to another school because you moved and you're not in our district anymore. And I got transferred to like an F school.
Say
like
what?
like a bad kids school.
That's crazy.
Because I moved to like the middle of nowhere instead of like the really well-to-do area that I was in before.
Right.
Which, by the way,
Damn it.
we were not well-to-do. We just lived there for some reason.
Right.
My mom picked me up and she was like furious. And she was like, oh, I can't believe, ugh. And she like, I think she made a couple calls that were like, why can't my son go to the fucking good school? She was like, have you even learned anything in the 2 years you've been in high school? And I was like, nah, not really. I haven't really retained anything. And she was like, you're not gonna be a fucking mathematician. Just get your GED. And I was like, oh, okay. Does that mean no more high school? And she was like, yeah, no more high school. And I was like,
oh, man.
And so Aaron's mother would pull him out of high school, freeing up his time to pursue whatever academic or creative venture suited him at the time. I think it's clear Aaron had a very artistically supportive family. I'm sure many wish they could have skipped high school or secondary school and gone into whatever interested them. After leaving school, Aaron would begin to experiment with voice acting, creating comedic MP3 files, rapidly summarizing anime and cartoons, and then uploading them on the file sharing application Napster. Gee, guys, remember Napster? I don't, on account of not being alive yet. Due to the obscured nature of these sites, Aaron wasn't able to see how successful his videos would become. However, one of his voiceovers would be animated and re-uploaded by a total stranger onto the then cutting-edge animation sharing website Newgrounds.
Well, hey guys, how's it going? Let's have a barbecue. Nothing bad's gonna happen today. Well, you're right, Dad. Nothing bad's gonna happen today, right, Krillin? Well, yeah, because I'm cool. Hey, bro.
And so, Aaron's first major Newgrounds project would be one he wasn't even aware of, but he was soon able to get his deserved credits from the immensely popular re-upload.
When that cartoon got made on Newgrounds, DBZ in a Nutshell,
and it was like #1 on the portal. I was like, that's awesome. Like, whoa, this guy made a thing. And so I messaged him on Newgrounds and I was like, yo, I made that audio and that's sauce. And immediately he was like, yo, I'm sorry, I'll take it down. It's no big deal, like whatever. And I was like, no, I'm happy. This is awesome. This is so cool.
Aaron would upload his first Newgrounds cartoon in 2006, called Metal Gear Awesome.
Whose footprints are these? What the fuck? I didn't expect that.
A majority of his early cartoons would be game-related parodies, with the term awesome crammed somewhere into the title. This series would creatively come to be known as the Awesome series. During this early period of trying to carve out a tangible career in the online space, Aaron left home and did a fair amount of couch surfing with friends. It's clear he was taking a significant risk into what was then unexplored artistic territory. From looking at his animation work on Newgrounds, MTV would reach out and ask him to create small animations as bookends for their various shows.
Well, after I'd made Metal Gear Awesome and a lot of people had eyes on it, MTV had this internet show, and it was just a gaming show, and they wanted like little interstitial bits. So they'd have a segment, and then they'd have like a little, transition, and then another segment. And that's what my cartoons were.
Aaron would produce a variety of small cartoons for them, but this revenue source would soon run dry when MTV no longer had need for his services. Thankfully, being let go from MTV coincided with the beginnings of select monetization for content on Newgrounds, at the discretion of the site's creator, Tom Falk. And so Aaron was able to stay afloat for a little while longer. Along with his newfound fame, he would start a relationship with Suzanne Burho, better known today as Mormon. Suzanne was an aspiring painter, and the pair had met briefly as teens at a convention a few years prior, and would spend their high school years bonding over the phone, and not worrying about the looming financial crisis.
Give me some lamp oil.
They would start dating proper around 2006, and this early relationship, like all young adult relationships, would escalate incredibly fast, with Suzanne admitting she had already planned out their life together.
You met Aaron when you were very young.
13. I have known Aaron half of my life this year.
That's amazing.
Isn't that insane? Yeah.
And were you dating immediately?
No. We were friends for a long time because he was into another girl.
Right.
And then I was there to pick up the pieces. I think I was 17 or 18 then.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I was just like, I have my whole life planned, and like, we're gonna do this, and we were engaged.
But Aaron, never one to be tied down, decided this path wasn't for him, and ended the relationship to fully dedicate himself to his career.
And we broke up for a year. Aaron actually broke up with me, and it was devastating to me.
I'm sure.
Because like we had planned like our entire life together.
He would go all in on the Newgrounds hustle, effectively doubling down on becoming an internet creator. You gotta remember, around this time in the late 2000s, the idea of an internet personality didn't really exist in the way it does today. And so by trying to turn his animation work into an actual career, he really was taking a risk and at the forefront of content creation. After working on a bunch of indie projects and his own animations, the YouTube giant Machinima would reach out to Aaron with an offer of support if he were to begin uploading his content to YouTube. YouTube was far more viable for making money than Newgrounds, so Aaron unsurprisingly began to prioritize YouTube content. While he attained commendable fame on Newgrounds, it was still a relatively niche community. But on YouTube, Aaron was watchable by a far wider demographic of internet users. And to assist with the growth of his career, Aaron would move to Los Angeles. You know what that means? We're going back to LA, baby, let's go!
All these racks give me a boner.
But despite all this success, Aaron evidently felt unfulfilled. Like all great artists, he was tormented by the loss of his one true love. I have to imagine the guys from Machinima were stood in his house like, you're an internet star, you can have any girl you want, but I love her. Resuming the Suzanne arc, during this time she had moved in with a new partner, who she later claimed was abusive in some capacity.
When you guys got back together, he was the one who called you up, right?
Yeah, I was already dating somebody else.
No shit.
Yeah, and I made a terrible mistake and decided to move in with this person after knowing them for a month.
Thankfully, Aaron had come to the realization that she was the one. Aaron started writing her romantically charged letters professing his love for her every single day. That's not a figure of speech, like it was literally every single day. Sometimes he would combine entire weeks worth of letters into single bundles.
Aaron wrote me a letter every day for a year almost. And I still have all of those letters, by the way.
No shit, and sent them.
And sent them, yeah. He would send, sometimes he would send like a whole week's worth of letters in one envelope, or sometimes he'd send them all at once just to save stamps. But yeah, I still have all of those adorable letters. And eventually I was just like, Aaron, like, I still love you too. And I was like, Aaron, like, let's make this work. So we got back together, and Aaron came to Florida, and we got to know each other all over again on that giant road trip from Florida to California, and it was amazing.
Also, like, you're a pretty crap abusive partner if you're letting your girlfriend receive daily love letters from another guy. Like, if it were me, I'll be on some Uncle Vernon shit. Aaron's love gassing campaign was evidently a success, as Suzanne left her old partner and resumed her relationship with Aaron. And shortly after, the pair would decide to move to LA to pursue their respective artistic careers. Around 2009, him and Suzanne moved to Burbank. And from here, he would slowly grow in popularity, becoming one of the most well-known video creators on early YouTube.
I'll give you $10 if you kiss him. Is Robin here? Get in here! Get in here! Well, water, everybody!
Of all the notable Newgrounds users at the time, Aaron really did have this unique aura, as the keystone of animation that the network of other artists really operated around. In all his videos, there's the prerequisite blend of now other well-known online personalities helping him with production. Suzanne was also frequently seen helping him with aspects such as coloring.
You dropped someone off who was black, you had to say like 30 times to get out of your system.
His most successful series during this time was without a doubt the Awesome series. And rewatching all of these, they really are like the best little time capsules of the really sort of crude early 2000s online humor.
Doctor, we need your help defusing this atom bomb. Open that shit up. I can't believe how sweet being a doctor is. Yeah!
Here, let me assist you, Doctor.
With the creme de la creme of this series being Pokey Awesome.
Is that what you want? Christ!
Its YouTube version was sadly taken down, but it was successful enough that he was able to buy a whole new car with the revenue. Whilst he had achieved great success with his animations and certainly could have continued down this path, he was left with an innate desire to keep changing and improving, and explore new creative avenues. In 2011, Aaron would debut a new series called Sequelitis, where he would give his hot takes on game design, mainly his opinions on why older games worked better than their newer remakes.
But if a game is telling you to do specific things with marks on a map and a sequence of which things to do and specific instructions, you're not discovering a world. You're being taken on a tour. You're no longer a pioneer adventurer, you're a guest at Disneyland.
The series would actually be pretty successful when it first aired, and many point to this as evidence that Aaron is actually pretty knowledgeable about game design. His gaming hot takes seemingly extended to some kind of disdain for Let's Plays, as in 2011, Aaron would make this now very poorly aged tweet. What happened over the following year to make him change his mind is unknown. Maybe he had an epiphany where he saw the unparalleled funny of PewDiePie screaming at barrels, or maybe he realized he could set himself apart from the screeching masses by using his comedic wit to publish high-quality content in a market saturated by low-quality clones. Or he just saw there was a lot of fucking money to be made by filming yourself playing a game. But regardless, 2012 would prove to be the most impactful year of Aaron's life. As unknown to him, he was about to be put in contact with another man who would inadvertently redirect his career in a wildly new trajectory.
Excuse me. I just had to finish killing my producers.
John Jafari was born in California in the year of our Lord 1990, making him just a shade younger than Aaron. John Jafari had been active in the same online places as Aaron since around 2003, uploading animations to Newgrounds when he was only 13 years old.
Now I, Krauser, will show you what real power is.
No one seems to remember that at his core, Jontron is a Newgrounds animator. In 2006, he would make his first YouTube channel, Birdman XZ6.
Barry, it cleared it. Oh my god. It cleared it.
He would then begin to upload content onto the website Screw Attack.
Jontron.
Game reviews. With recognizable levels and scenes right from the get-go, this is sure to be a nostalgia-packed ride for anyone who has played the original title. The question is, does GoldenEye Wii live up to the legendary name of its predecessor, or is it destined to swim in the sea of mediocre Wii first-person shooters?
In 2011, he leveraged his significant online reputation to create the Jontron show YouTube. John began to see incredible success, and this success would catch the eye of one Aaron Hansen.
Yeah, we sort of hit it off. We were playing, I remember I was playing like the shitty new Castlevania game. We were sort of ripping on it together, and I was like, I like this guy. And then he asked me to help him work on some Jontrons. And I did. I helped him write the Star Fox Adventure ones, which took a long time to come out. and then I helped him film a couple.
As the two grew closer, they planned to collaborate on what was originally conceived as a podcast. But at a get-together with friends, the two would be encouraged to create a Let's Play channel to better utilize their unique comedic styles.
I mean, we started Game Grumps because we were playing Smash Brothers one night. Do you know that story?
Yeah, you had an argument over if Wolf was a fox.
Yeah.
Yes.
You guys got in a heated argument about
because
this.
yes, so that's
you guys are fucking.
We were
nerds.
yelling at each other while everyone else was still like trying to play Smash.
So
we were like standing up, like pointing fingers. And no, because of this. That's how Game Grumps started.
Who decided that should be a thing?
It was literally in the middle of the argument. I was like, dude, we should do this as a show, and we should call it Game Grumps. Like that was literally the conversation in the middle of us yelling at each other about whether or not Wolf is a clone.
And so the pair decided to start a Let's Play channel, with the central draw being the comedic friction between the two hosts.
Hey there, do you like meat? Probably not. That's okay. Anyways, I'm starting a new channel. It's called Game Grumps, but hey, I couldn't do it alone. I also got my pal, Egoraptor. So basically what Game Grumps is we play games, we talk over them, we have fun, and it's basically like we're all just circle jerking.
We don't have fun, we're grumpy.
Shut!
It was decided that Aaron would take control of the channel's branding and general production, whilst John would be in charge of editing, although this task would soon be shared and then taken over by Barry Kramer, a friend of John's who would become known as the first Game Grumps channel editor. The basic format for the channel was that the pair would play through a game over the course of a few large gameplay sessions. These sessions would then be broken down into shorter 10-minute videos. The benefit of this was undoubtedly the ability to stretch an afternoon's worth of work throughout the week by uploading a different segment each day. The quality of early Game Grumps is debated. I think recently people have become aware of the rose-tinted perspective many had.
Nick's all like, "Sup? I'm an alien, yo! I put a hole in that nick!"
It's fucked up.
This is so hard.
Give it up, motherfucker. Let me tell you a tale about a nigga named me gonna fucking...
You can't deny they were true red-blooded gamers. The real phenomenon of Game Grumps wasn't even their content. For all intents and purposes, it was a fairly conventional Let's Play affair. What set them apart from similar channels was the fan base that spawned around them. Thanks to their combined fame, it wouldn't take long for a dedicated community to spring around the Game Grumps brand. The Game Grumps fan base is going to be a lot more relevant later on, but during this early phase, Aaron would give the community the pet name Lovelies.
I'm not gonna call them Grumpettes or something.
Grumps, viewers, audience.
Yes.
Lovelies?
All of.
Are lovelies.
All of above.
Are lovelies. We should call them lovelies.
Dude.
Do you guys like being called lovelies?
During the early years, the fanbase wasn't as rabid as it would eventually become. Aaron already had something of a cult personality, but it was largely projected by fans onto him, rather than the other way round. But later on, we'll see the full effects these parasocial relationships had, both on fans and the Grumps themselves. Even the name Lovelies, even though I'm sure it wasn't intentional at the time, is a pretty bizarre name to give to a fanbase. Like, I'm aware it's ironic, but as their fanbase shifted from an older Newgrounds crowd towards a younger, more Tumblr crowd, yeah, I don't want to be calling a bunch of preteens Lovelies. I think it's understandable why over the past few years the Grumps have tried to phase this name out. Personally, I would have gone with John's idea.
We should call them Cumfats.
Another avenue of fan engagement was through animation, inspired no doubt by Egoraptor himself, who after each recording session would quickly get to work and produce an animation based on whatever they had just recorded. These fan animations usually took the form of giving funny visuals to a piece of particularly amusing audio.
No, we're leaving that in. That's the beginning of the episode. You burped in the fucking PS3. You burped, and the fucking PlayStation 3 fell over.
They vary in quality drastically, but Game Grumps animations were so numerous and widespread that they began to resemble a self-contained genre.
And how will they deal with the giant waves of Game Grump animations that everyone on Earth with a copy of Flash is making? This fucking sucks.
Despite how well things were going, it would barely be a year before the Game Grumps channel would experience its first major shakeup. John's departure is something of a mystery. General audience consensus from snippets of conversations seemed to indicate that there was some kind of disagreement. John allegedly stated in lost videos he was growing displeased with the dishonesty in how Game Grumps was being run. Another theory states he was growing bored with the repetitiveness of their daily Let's Play content. He was without a doubt second to Aaron in terms of channel control, and it would make sense if he wanted to break free to be in control control of his own content, not having to play second fiddle to Aaron's creative and business decisions. Regardless of the true reason, after John's departure, the pair initially broke off contact. According to Aaron, around a year later they met up for coffee and realized they were both cool with one another. But the first public acknowledgement of not being angry at each other wouldn't come until 2015, when the pair reunited and were publicly photographed at a convention. A little while after this convention meetup, Aaron even appeared in one of John's projects, a surprise cameo role at the end of Jontron's Starcade series.
It feels as if the balance has been restored to the galaxy, or at least to a very niche part of the internet. May the Force, be with you.
In the immediate wake of John's departure, a subreddit named Conspiracy Grumps was created. The creation of this subreddit was prompted in part due to how secretive everything was surrounding John. There are theories stretching all the way from how John stopped liking how corporate Game Grumps was becoming, all the way to John fucked Mortimer and had to flee LA. Which one could be true? Make your choice. But in all fairness, I think if it was anything remotely controversial, Aaron would have zero reason to keep it secret, especially in the wake of the Jontron event that we'll get to later. So what was Aaron to do? With the current format of the channel, he could easily shift gears into something more adjusted to the algorithm, or maybe, just maybe, he could attempt to find a replacement. Dan Avidan was born in 1979 in New Jersey, making him 7 years older than Aaron. From his earliest memories, Dan knew he wanted to be a musician, and would quickly amass a considerable collection of music, as well as proficiency with a handful of musical talents, but he would mainly consider himself a singer. After high school, Dan went to college to pursue a degree in advertising, on the request of his dad, who didn't see music as a feasible long-term career. After graduating college, Dan would be left with an undeniable feeling of emptiness, and after a period of traveling and soul-searching, he decided he had to try his hand at music full-time. He moved to Philadelphia and would spend the latter half of the 90s and early 2000s touring with various rock groups. Despite many of these groups breaking up as most bands do, Avidan was seemingly always able to land on his feet. And in 2009, he would found the group he's most well known for, and still a member of today, Ninja Sex Party. It's a weird gimmick band, but I don't know, the kids loved it. He would be joined by Brian Wecht, who went by the stage name Ninja Brian. Wecht, by the way, is an insanely qualified physicist, but he gave it all up to perform for Ninja Sex Party. Dan would adopt the stage name of Danny Sexbang, a flamboyant and sex-obsessed stage persona. When reading official Game Grumps media, there's always some weird discrepancies between Dan and the Sexbang persona. There's a definite vagueness between where the real guy ends and the character begins. Dan would move to LA with Brian, where they would continue to write songs and perform as NSP, all while still working regular jobs to pay the bills. Their music would soon catch the eye of one Aaron Egoraptor Hansen, who made contact with the group and soon after made an elaborate animated segment for one of their music videos.
Oh yeah.
There, the pair would strike up a cordial friendship, which would come to a head in 2013, when Aaron asked Dan to appear on Game Grumps as a replacement host. Dan was quickly accepted by the community as a slightly more chill foil to Aaron than John was. His successful debut on Game Grumps would allow him to quit his day job and finally be able to call himself a full-time entertainer. It's unclear how much, if any, immediate fan turnover there was during the John-Dan transition, but one thing I will mention is the general revisionism regarding how Dan made it onto the show. I'm surprised more diehard Game Grumps fans never acknowledge this. That being how cynical the appointment of a new best friend co-host seems to be. I'll touch on this in more detail later, but a major issue many have with new Grumps is Dan and Aaron's chemistry, or lack thereof, with many citing Dan's hesitance to criticize Aaron in any way as a reason why they can no longer stand to listen. And yeah, that makes sense. Aaron basically contracted Dan to be his friend. I too would be shit scared of pissing off my best friend if he was also my boss. I'm not one of these conspiracists who thinks that Aaron and Dan aren't actually friends and they only interact on camera, but the inherent way the channel operates, with Aaron at the very top, seems counterintuitive to any workplace friendship. And in the coming years, we'll see Aaron leverage his control over friends to protect his own authority at any cost. Stick around, it's gonna be fun. Another creative venture brought about by Dan's arrival was the creation of the musical group known as Starbomb. Aaron, Dan, and his Ninja Sex Party bandmate Brian would conceive the project as a music group with a focus on gaming and nerd culture, taking advantage of Dan and Brian's pre-existing musical talent and Aaron's rapping ability. The album saw relative success, obviously helped by the massive fan bases they already had. And right, okay, I can't be too harsh as someone with zero musical talent. Like, functionally as music, this is impressive. Like listen to this. They clearly know what they're doing, okay? Like, is gaming musical parodies dated by today's standards? Sure. But it became incredibly successful, so clearly, what the fuck do I know? The group would continue to release music up until today, frequently touring to spread their sick gaming raps around the world. The following year of 2013 is when the channel truly settled in as one of the major players of the YouTube gaming sphere. The Jontron transition was now firmly behind them, and Dan had proved himself as a co-host that was as, if not more, popular than John. Throughout the year, the content on the channel saw rapid diversification. The pair playing games was still front and center, but it was supported by a plethora of new series that would offer a change of pace from their usual videos, and introduce the audience to the Game Grumps extended cast. Steam Train saw Ross host Aaron, Dan, and others as they played through his overstocked library of Steam games. Another flagship show, Table Flip, hosted by Suzanne and Barry, switched up the format by having the guests play board games, and really showed off how much budget the Grumps now had, with a bespoke set, some fancy costumes, and the finest early 2010s YouTubers money could buy. But seriously, from Table Flip, you could see how well respected the channel and its extended members were, with many large YouTubers then at the peak of their careers flying out to collaborate with Suzanne and Barry. Guests include Markiplier, Captain Sparkles, Spaz Kid. But the following year of 2014 would see the first real pushback against the Grumps and activities of specific members, and this could mainly be seen taking place on Reddit. In October of 2014, r/VentGrumps was created as a dedicated space for people to air their grievances with the Game Grumps YouTube. The complaints seen on VentGrumps don't really relate to drama, so to speak. It's mostly pretty tame complaints relating to unfunny bits, not liking a new show, or not liking a certain member of the channel. One member mentioned more than any other would be Aaron's girlfriend, Suzanne, and it would be from her that we would get the first true Game Grumps drama. In January of 2015, a Reddit user made a post detailing some pretty shady practices being performed by Suzanne on her Etsy. Basically, she was buying a bunch of occult guff on the cheap, and then repacking and rebranding it on her own store page and passing it off as unique and artisan merchandise, knowing that fans of herself and her boyfriend would pay far larger prices than they would otherwise if they thought they were receiving a product handcrafted by their idol. A lot of the stuff she was reselling either came from China and was literally made for pennies, or even worse, was handmade by an independent artist and just being directly resold by Suzanne at a far higher price. Suzanne initially refuted these claims, but the Reddit post quite literally had the receipts, and so she made a half-hearted response basically saying, "Get your money up, povos," and that she had no clue where she was sourcing her own shop items from. The complaints got so bad that Aaron had to step in on the Game Grumps Reddit and basically said, "Hey, it's capitalism, baby," basically saying that if people were willing to pay $80 for her crap, then that's their problem. I feel it goes without saying, but basing the price of items solely on what's the maximum amount fans will pay doesn't seem like the most ethical business model. You know, I don't think you can blame a guy for defending his wife. I wish I had someone to defend. Despite the lack of a solid resolution, the store would remain up, but slowly adjust its prices and products to be less egregious. Rest assured, all revenue from this video will go towards anti-negative energy room spray. I promise to you, at 50k subs, I'm gonna drink this on camera. You only need to look at Aaron's extensive response regarding the Etsy drama to see that on the main Game Grumps subreddit, he maintained a pretty strong control over what was discussed, and so a desire emerged to create a space dedicated to critical discussion of the Game Grumps, away from Aaron's prying eyes. And so in June of 2015, the community surrounding Game Grumps would be forever changed, with the creation of the Rant Grumps subreddit, a place where frustrated fans, haters, or a mix of both could air their critiques of Aaron and Dan, hidden safely away from the overactive moderation on the main Game Grumps Reddit. This page absorbed the older Vent Grumps, and has since been the primary place where anti-Grump discussion takes place. Okay, quick tangent. It was around this time that Chris O'Neill, aka OniNG, who had been close with Aaron since moving to LA, set up his own Let's Play channel in the Game Grumps offices, renting a space from Aaron for what we can assume was a very lenient price. Therefore, Chris and all his friends were frequently around the Game Grumps office. This will be important later on. It was also around mid-2016 that longtime editor Barry Kramer left Game Grumps to pursue his own personal creative ventures. To fill the editing void left behind, Matt Watson and Ryan McGee, better known as Super Mega, joined the Game Grumps crew, chiefly as editors, but would also frequently guest in videos. In early 2017, ex-Game Grumps host Jontron would engage in a spree of political action, starting with an interview of famous waiter Sargon of Akkad, and culminating in an infamous livestream with 5-foot political commentator Destiny, where he expressed some very interesting beliefs.
Wealthy blacks also commit more crime than poor whites. That's a fact.
Wait, what?
In the wake of this appearance, John was mocked by the wider internet, and disowned by a majority of his collaborators, both past and present. Aaron and Dan would make this comment at a fan Q&A.
It's been a long time since I've talked to John. We're not on bad terms. We're on fine terms. questionable if he'll be on the show on Guest Grumps due to recent things that have been said.
Yeah, very questionable.
Do not agree with any of those things. Yeah. So I wouldn't want to promote that idealism.
Yeah, it was always kind of maybe yes, maybe no. Because of that, like, it's probably a lot closer to no. But that's not our fault.
Marking the final metaphorical nail in the coffin for John ever appearing on Game Grumps again. It was during this time of global political unrest that the Grumps would make deliberate moves to position themselves on the progressive left, broadly speaking. They took steps to appeal to the younger Tumblr user base that was growing exponentially around 2017, and were seemingly able to absorb a significant amount of fans this way, by being one of the only gaming channels to openly embrace the LGBT. This new audience triggered something akin to fanbase whiplash, as the gritty Newgrounds grunge was swapped for fan art of the hosts being small beans and similar such crap. Of course, I'm generalizing things massively. It's not like the lovelies completely changed overnight, but this absorption of new fans was one of the key factors in allowing Game Grumps to thrive during the latter 2010s until today. One of the biggest manifestations of this change in fanbase was the shipping between Dan and Aaron, depicting them as uwu little gay boys in a very mid-2010s fetishization of homosexuals type way. Needless to say, Aaron and Dan undoubtedly played into this.
That reminds me of a dream I had where I was kissing a girl.
Good save.
And she was really pretty and tall and had curly hair. And
totally not you.
And was my co-host.
Effectively LARPing as closeted gay men for tweens online. From this, Aaron and Dan, I think, saw a highly lucrative niche, and doubled down in their support for LGBT and adjacent groups, and began to apologize for their previous usages of no-no words and jokes at the expense of marginalized groups. It's always been the topic of debate as to whether these were genuine apologies or tactical moves to absorb a new wave of fans. Personally, I do think they're being genuine. However, you also can't deny they took the time to make a bit of money from this demographic of fan, with a yearly drop of Pride-themed apparel and stickers. Don't worry, a portion goes to the Trevor Project, the rest goes to Weed and Beans. Chicken! The ultimate manifestation of this courting of the LGBT community would come around July 2017, with the release of the Game Grumps' first major game, Dream Daddy. Dream Daddy was touted as the first major homosexual-based dating sim, with the player moving to a new town where every homosexual stereotype was occupied by one of the many dads around town. You play as a dad who had just moved to town with your biracial daughter. Now, the motivation behind making this game is disputed. Aaron, Dan and co stated that they just wanted to make a game that represented a traditionally underrated community in the game genre, but clearly others thought that this was perhaps a more cynical move. One of those voices who saw the game as an attempt to milk the LGBT community was the then often seen gaming personality Ding Dong. So the true timeline of events is a little hazy, and we only have Ding Dong and Julian's account to go off. But seeing as nobody has made any attempt to refute their version of events other than nuh-uh, it's all we have to go off. So when recording in the Game Grumps office, Matt from Super Mega would show them an early build of the game.
The reason we saw Dream Daddy is because Matt sent us the build. And a lot of the people at the office were talking to us about it too.
Key to this story is the fact that none of the major Game Grumps figures involved with the game were members of the LGBT community, but Ding Dong and Julian were. After testing the game, both were incredibly put off by what they saw as shameless pandering to the Tumblr crowd, with it being clear that the game was made by a bunch of straight people fetishizing homosexuality under the guise of inclusivity. Julian was angered by the game to the point that he asked Ding Dong to speak about it on stream.
Respect is not a thing that they care about here. It's just that they want to be able to market and sell to these people. That's the only reason it's being made. People may enjoy it. People might actually get something out of it, but from my end, seeing everything, knowing everything about it, it just comes off as nothing but exploitation. Exploitation of the game industry, exploitation of the gay community, exploitation in terms of that audience, hoping to prey on teens, the Tumblr crowd, all of that. That's all it reads as to me, and I can't stand behind it in any way. I'm really repulsed by it. I really do not enjoy it.
Furthermore, they also mention an unspecified group of around 6 people who took similar issue with the game and wanted someone with some social pull like Ding Dong and Julian to speak out.
Literally everybody that told us to speak up about it threw us under at the time. Everyone. Literally everyone. I can't think of a single soul.
No, even the one who showed you his big email turned out he didn't end up sending it.
Yep, he didn't even send it. He was just trying to get me to say something. And if you guys were wondering why some of them were starting to make nice publicly with me, it's because I just accepted all the fault for it, and they kind of went, all right, well, He's had his power taken away from him, so I guess he's safe now. I'm not kidding, we are blacklisted in a few places now after all of this shit. I got to see messages that they were going around and trying to do stuff behind the scenes. And when I say they, not talking about Matt here. Talking about lots of just other people.
Leaving the pair effectively at the mercy of the entire Game Grump empire, who, due to having a far larger follower base, were effectively able to control the narrative and scare away anyone who would potentially stick up for them. One element of this narrative control was the claim that Ding Dong and Julian never actually played the game. However, this was quickly disproven by Julian, who had access to the recordings of himself playing an earlier build. Again, refer back to the fakeness of their so-called allyship and positivity. You would think two actually gay men having an issue with your gay game would be something of an issue to be taken seriously. But no, the Grumps went to war immediately. They didn't even attempt to resolve this issue. What followed was a string of hostile moves performed by Game Grumps fans directed at Ding Dong and Julian. And this would escalate to the point where Ding Dong was outed to his parents, who were unaware that he was gay. Again, I don't think I need to mention the morbid comedy that is outing someone to their potentially unaccepting parents, because they critiqued the gay dating sim made by your favorite YouTubers. Another weird detail put forward by Ding Dong is an instance where a former friend stated that by killing himself, he would truly be able to get back at Aaron and Suzanne. On the surface, this sounds like a dark joke, but Ding Dong insists it was meant with complete seriousness.
It wasn't even specifically the idea of you should commit suicide. I had just attempted it, and that was the first thing they thought to respond with was, yeah, but wouldn't it be funny though if somebody did leave a note? Because like, if you blamed like them for it, if you blamed like these two people, you said like Aaron and Susie on that note, then like everybody would hate them and they'd be like ruined. That was not a joke. That was a serious thing that they had said immediately after, making it clear, you want me to fucking do it, don't you? You want me to do it, and you want me to leave a note, and you want to fucking exploit me on this!
This is probably the darkest spot on the Game Grumps timeline. And what's worse is that there was pretty much zero public acknowledgement from the Grumps of any of this at the time. Ding Dong and Julian stepped away from mainstream influencer life, and as for Dream Daddy just being a soulless cash grab directed at the LGBT community, look at Tyler Hutchinson, who went to the Game Developers Conference to do a soulless presentation on how they did gay game, and you can too!
And also, our character creator is going to be called Build-A-Dad! And it's for building dad sodas! We gotta have that!
From the success of Dream Daddy, the Grumps likely set their sights immediately on the next project. However, these later games wouldn't rely on a pre-existing audience like the LGBT community, and as such wouldn't achieve nearly as much success. In late 2017, Aaron and Dan would embark on their most ambitious project yet, a YouTube Red show made by gamers for gamers.
We're recruiting gamers.
Are you guys with the micro penis support group?
What? God, I'm hard already. The show was a failure, being cancelled after its first 6-episode season due to low viewership, and what meager views it did get seemed to come from pre-existing fans who would support them in pretty much any endeavor they put their minds to. Dream Daddy was really the flashpoint where I believe the Grumps fully locked into their more positive personas seen until today, and the year of 2018 would see them cement these new identities. Aaron would attempt to separate the Game Grumps brand from the other mean internet gamers. Him and Dan essentially went all in on positivity when recording, in the very vague, we love you guys, follow your dreams type way.
And if you feel like no one believes in you, I fucking believe in you. There, I said it. So go out and do that shit that you want to do.
It's the well-meaning but fundamentally detached life advice you can only get from people who have been successful for so long they've become detached from reality. I'm sorry, that's very bitter. Can you tell I'm unemployed right now? This positivity would take a negative turn when Aaron horseshoed all the way round and would start lashing out at his old colleagues and friends. On the 1st of August, YouTube animator Senor Pelo produced the animation Every Storytime Animator, where he lampooned the uniformity of storytime animation on YouTube, mocking some specific creators but largely parodying the genre itself rather than any personal attacks. Aaron took issue with the video, specifically what he believed to be Senor Pelo making fun of aspiring creatives, comparing this style of critique to what he experienced on Newgrounds, stating that this style of criticism wasn't constructive and only served to discourage aspiring artists. Pelo responded, stating he had nothing but respect for Aaron, and the video was all in good fun and not meant to put down any creators. Oni NG, who had collaborated with Aaron on Newgrounds and had previously been based out of the Game Grumps offices a few years before, encouraged Pelo to ignore Aaron, claiming he had lost his sense of humor. People obviously theorized what to shit this all meant. Clearly there had been some falling out. And a few other Newgrounds alumni spoke up rejecting what they saw as a fake persona put on by Aaron when public facing. I believe this specific interaction with Chris is when the reputation of Game Grumps began to shift. The Dream Daddy situation undoubtedly played a role, but since that was largely brushed under the carpet by Aaron, this was the moment internet users saw his other face. Fans and influencers felt emboldened to speak their mind about Aaron, and what became clear across each testimony was that Egoraptor had become protective over his reputation to the point he would antagonize and cut ties with anyone he deemed unworthy of his support.
A long time ago, I used to be friends with Egoraptor. Eventually, we stopped being friends. And there's a lot of people that I've talked to that have the general consensus of like, yeah, Egoraptor's like really hard to get along with because if you ever upset him once, he just writes you off like you're dead to him.
I know a singular testimony of Aaron trying to blacklist someone wouldn't be very reliable, but when you've got several accounts all saying the same thing, you have to wonder what Aaron is actually like behind closed doors. Regardless of what people thought on the outside, internally, the Game Grumps were beginning to disintegrate. The following year would see personal drama shake the channel to its foundations, and initiate a changing of content that would turn attention away from an extended cast of friends and solely towards Dan and Aaron. In September of 2018, channel character Ross would announce he was divorcing his wife and other frequent guest of the channel, Holly Conrad. The stated reason was an amicable understanding that they wanted to pursue different things in life. A solo influencer career and witchcraft, respectively. This all doesn't seem very relevant to Grump lore, but just hang on, okay? It's all gonna come full circle. That very same month, Ninja Sex Party would appear on the late night show Conan, performing a censored version of his song, Danny Don't You Know. The song and music video of which had released a few months prior, and was without a doubt the band's biggest hit to date. But remember, there would have been no performance without Conan, Conan wouldn't have a show without The Simpsons, and there wouldn't be no Simpsons without Tracy Ullman, and no Tracy Ullman without Slam. What happened to paying it forward, Danny? I don't see you in Queensmere no more. Sorry. The following year, in early 2019, LS Mark would make a video summarizing the history of Game Grumps and its more notable dramas.
Like how supposedly after two of the hosts, Ding Dong and Julian, from Oni Players said that the game they were funding was pandering, which it was. Aaron bumped up their office rent, basically forcing them to move out.
From old comments that predate the dislike removal, the video had equal likes and dislikes, so Mark had clearly struck a nerve with the lovelies.
I completely buy that Aaron is a malicious cunt.
In May, other Grumps universe character Jared Nabenbauer would separate from his respective wife, Heidi. Alongside Ross, it just seemed like a lot of YouTube gamers were really after that bachelor lifestyle. Jared put out a respectful Twitter statement asking for privacy and understanding for him and his former wife. I'm sure in the next 28 minutes, nothing can go wrong. 28 minutes later, Heidi accused Jared of cheating with Ross's wife Holly, sending the extended Grump fan community into a frenzy. But the biggest development of the Jared drama was yet to come. A few days later, two teenage they/thems accused Jared of general noncery and grooming, sending an email containing all of their evidence to the Game Grumps, whom Jared worked very closely with. But if you remember, Jared didn't work directly for the Grumps like Ross. It's not like they could fire him or investigate him. Jared did leave Normal Boots, who he did actually work for, but why were the Grumps the first point of contact?
Charlie has another Tumblr called Ego Banked, dedicated to sexual fantasies of Dan and Aaron, fan fictions, fan art, and discussions of them having sex with each other.
Furthermore, they had repeatedly attempted, unsuccessfully, to start casual conversations with Grump members via social media. And so it was pretty clear a significant motivator behind this was a desire to be put in contact with their online idols. Hence, they reached out to the Grumps first. They clearly found some success with this, as while no comment was made, all Game Grumps videos involving Jared were silently removed from the channel. Some weeks later, Jared made a response and revealed some critical information about his accusers, namely their respective obsession with the Grumps and dishonesty in their version of events, and generally it was seen as a pretty solid rebuttal in the YouTube canon of responses and apologies. A tier, right up there with Mick. There you go. He revealed that everything between him and Holly had been agreed upon by all parties beforehand, and the weird fan sexting hustle did have age verification. You're on thin ice, Jared. Only Dan is allowed to be into bizarre, freaky sex stuff.
So if you'll excuse me, I need to delete some pictures of myself playing naked.
You didn't delete them.
Unless you want to see them.
No! Delete them! Delete them, Projared, please.
Despite a solid response, Jared never fully regained his pre-allegation sub-count. And this event serves as an example of how far some Game Grumps fans were willing to go to get the attention of their idols. The Game Grumps proper never made any formal comment on any of this, including the fucking polycule occurring at the center of their company. But hey, look, this still counts as Game Grumps drama, okay? It's going in the video. The next controversy would be less personal and more of an organizational blunder of the highest degree. On the 29th of June, Aaron put out a short video on the main Game Grumps page advertising a garage sale that would be taking place on the 29th and 30th of the month.
And we've got all kinds of weird stuff! Stuff from around the office! You gotta come down to see it! Maybe we'll be there to sign! I don't know!
Naturally, fans from California and beyond made their way to their LA offices to attend the sale and meet their idols, and of course pick up some unique memorabilia.
This Saturday and Sunday, we will be selling stuff at the Game Grumps Garage Sale Spectacular Show. Aaron will be sporting his tippy taps and dancing like a man, and it's going to be a great time, and I'm excited. How about you?
Dude, I've never been more excited for an event in my life. An event where I get to hang out with you two boys for an extended period of time. Man, I can't wait.
Sounds sarcastic.
It's not.
Either the Game Grumps staff severely underestimated how far people were willing to come from, or they simply didn't consider the potential issues with inviting an unknown number of people to a small suburban office space. While at first the event seemed manageable and visitors were having a good time, soon the number of attendants ballooned to an unsustainable amount. With a queue around the block in the sweltering LA air, it got so out of control that eventually the police showed up to disperse the crowd and shut down the event. Aaron would tweet the following day that due to yesterday's hijinks, the sale would not take place the following day as was originally planned. But Aaron seemed to be in high spirits about things, acknowledging how the Grumps always tended to underestimate how much fan attendance their events would receive. In May of 2019, the Grumps would launch an official sister channel, creatively called The Grumps. This second channel was dedicated to live-action content, consisting of skits and competitive segments in a similar vein to Table Flip. The following section is all alleged. Let me just put up a little alleged sign. Okay, nice. In mid-2020, accusations would begin to emerge concerning Dan Avidan and sexual encounters he had had with fans. Primarily a pattern of forming quick, intense relationships with younger women before ghosting them immediately after they had a sexual encounter. Again, nothing in the allegations claimed Dan had broken the law. The primary charge was that he was taking advantage of younger women who idolized him, and then dropping them as soon as he got what he wanted. Some of these alleged sexual encounters were even stated to have happened at Game Grump live events, backstage and at after parties. The allegations would come to a head the following year in March of 2021, when a Reddit post consolidating all available evidence was made and the story soon gained traction on Twitter and TikTok. Dan, who only now that everything had blown up, finally decided to make a statement, acknowledging the fact that sexual encounters did in fact occur, but emphasizing it was 100% consensual and he never intended to use any woman. Now again, I'm not in any way trying to imply that Dan broke the law. This has nothing to do with age or consent, but it does have a shit ton to do with influence and personal power and balance.
So I just got to my room at the resort in Mexico. Girl, look at this jacuzzi tub. Oh, it's got water jets that shoot out of the seats. They got fucking seats. Oh man, 2 seats in fact. Wish you were here to take up that other one and then crawl onto the first one so we could fuck in this. Anyway.
Using fans for sex is pretty terrible behavior, made all the more terrible by the wholesome, meek respect woman persona they would constantly reinforce in videos and social media.
I will say that I struggle with girls who want to be hit. With a girl one time, but she was like, slap me in the face. And I was like, I don't want to. Just do it, you fucking pussy. If I know that the girl really wants it and it will make her the happiest, I could probably bring myself to do it.
I mentioned already how Dan has a bit of a habit for sharing stories of his sexual escapades. In the modern era, some may go so far as to describe it as oversharing.
I remember getting a blowjob in like junior year of high school or whatever.
Like, I appreciate a lot of these stories are personal, and sure, sex-related stories can be funny, whatever, but people are allowed to draw conclusions based on how one speaks about their sexual history. Like, when researching and listening to these audios, I assumed Dan was like some years younger than Aaron, like in his mid-20s. You know, the age where you want to talk about sex and drugs. But Dan was around his mid-40s. Like, you should be talking about your model railway, not reminiscing to your young audience about the college orgy you went to.
So one day I was just hanging out at their place, and the three of us are on the couch together, and we're just playing video games or whatever. Janine puts her hand on my leg out of nowhere, and she's like, Dan, we have a proposition for you. And I was like, go on!
One really interesting byproduct of this drama was a play written by Katie Schwartz, titled Bad People. This semi-autobiographical play is an anthology about bad people Katie had encountered throughout her life. And the character of John, a funny and famous guy she meets after moving to California, was a stand-in for Dan Avidan.
Death is a form of abandonment.
I guess.
It is, especially suicide.
Do you think about death a lot?
It scares me.
Me too.
I promise I will never do that to you.
Let me bring back my allegedly sign here. This is a deeply personal account, so obviously it's not going to be wholly objective, etc, etc. But as an intimate view into the kinds of relationships Dan was purportedly conducting, it's a pretty chilling insight into the dangers of vastly different power dynamics. Hey look, a person sharing their subjective experience of abuse? How do you think the lovelies responded to this? I'll leave a link to the unofficially re-uploaded and unlisted version you're currently seeing below. The next factoid is major alleged. I could not find any solid evidence, but many accounts mention that when Starbomb was touring following the fallout from this controversy, an unspoken rule was established by Aaron and the other bandmates that Dan was not to be left alone with any fans. I don't know how this information could have leaked, but it's mentioned multiple times in discussions. Since these events, there have been no reported instances of romantic drama involving Dan. Either this event was a wake-up call for him to change, or going off the pretty unapologetic tone of his response, he was told by Aaron to stop this shit immediately. In December of 2019, Aaron would feature in a series of cryptic videos, where he claimed to have located a lost game for an old Russian console called the Dendy. The Grumps had made a pair of videos playing bootleg games on the Russian console, so this video didn't come out of the blue and in fact was tied in with the Grumps' procurement of the Dendy console. Aaron claimed that in the bundle they received, alongside all the rip-offs of well-known Famicom titles, there was an unmarked cartridge that wouldn't start on the console. The video was Aaron reaching out to various people trying to get the game to work, eventually uncovering that it was a battle royale style game, but made decades before the explosion of the genre with games like PUBG and Fortnite. Aaron stated that in the long term he would like to port the game onto PC, and open up a server so that everyone could have the chance to play this lost piece of gaming history.
This is the first battle royale ever in the history of the world. It's not the last one, it's the first one that ever was made. Be a part of the early access, click that link in the description below. And then we'll release the actual release date when we know when it's going to release.
And in January 2020, the trailer for Soviet Jump game would drop. And yeah, it was a hoax. It was all an elaborate marketing campaign for their next game, catching in on all that sweet 2010s Soviet Russia meme culture.
In Soviet Russia, gameplay you.
Yeah, people were pretty pissed at this. I mean, as pissed as people who care about gaming history can be. But honestly, yeah, I kind of get it. Like, the first teaser plays it completely straight.
This is like the coolest thing that's ever happened to me personally. Like, this is like gaming history that no one's ever found.
Like, where was this acting in YouTube Red? They made all the lost adverts and art look super genuine. If they played it funny from the start, like, this wouldn't have been a problem. In the very next video made after the game's announcement, Aaron gets kidnapped by the KGB. Like, if they did funny shit like that since the start, this wouldn't have been a problem. So this is less actual drama, mainly just mildly annoying theatrics. The game itself would go on early access the same month and release on Steam that June. The game reviewed decently enough, however, in terms of numbers, it fell way short of the Grumps' previous project. The biggest issue with the game, however, was its low player count, that even upon release, wasn't anything to write home about. The die-hard lovelies naturally flooded the servers for the first few days, but beyond that the game had very limited appeal. Battle Royales were still an extremely saturated market, and the game wasn't marketed that heavily beyond Grump socials. Throughout the rest of the year, the player base hemorrhaged, and support would end prematurely before the end of the year, silently being abandoned and now existing as this weird ghost on Steam, having literally only a couple of active players at a time for the past half-decade. This just in when editing, apparently the servers were taken down. Oh no. In mid-2020, Ross O'Donovan, longtime core member of the channel, would formally leave the Grumps, after 8 years of distinguished service. Ross's presence on the channel had been dwindling with the ending of shows like Steam Train that he was heavily involved in. Ross would move to focus full-time on his own Rubber Ross channel, making animation-based content, and seems to be doing very well. Well done, Ross. I can't help but feel like I need to make some kind of point about how a lot of people seem to leave Game Grumps for creative freedom. I'm sure in some instances, the stated reason for everyone leaving was the truth. Like, all these people did indeed go on to have successful and creatively distinct careers that wouldn't have been possible under Game Grumps. But I think on a deeper level, it reflects the level of control Aaron maintained over what content was worthy of the Grumps. It's already been shown in this video that Aaron was the content strategist. He clearly knew the importance of a strong brand and wanted to run Game Grumps more like a company than a Let's Play channel. And I think that's why a lot of people acknowledge the channel developed this eerie artificial aura, pretending to be a rinky-dink production made by a bunch of outcasts who had come together and made a community. And while maybe once that was the case, Game Grumps was now as corporate YouTube can get. And yeah, I think despite being the guy that will proclaim himself as the guy who pushed every boundary of online content, Aaron had become scared shitless of rocking the boat at all. And so when people like Super Mega want to go and make weird shit, Aaron just couldn't risk any dilution of the Game Grumps brand. I also want to mention a classic symptom of larger YouTubers, and that is the phenomenon of conditional professionalism. Aaron will boast about running a company with all the responsibility and kudos that being a leader entails, but will still do stupidly unprofessional shit like a flash garage sale. Oh, oopsie, we're just a goofy YouTube channel. It's just having to watch all this content, I've developed a physical response to Aaron doing his Egoraptor funny voice. You know, it's when he starts to slur his speech a bit and pretend to stumble over words. Oh, hey, what's going on, guys? You know, I don't know about that. Oh, I feel like I'm taking fucking crazy pills. In regards to distancing themselves from their previously more edgy personas, they most notably tweeted support for BLM in June of 2020. In the post, acknowledging their own history with Game Awards and that they were sorry and were donating money to relevant charities. In critical Game Grumps discussions, there's a lot of debate as to how sincere this was. Refer back to corporate Game Grumps versus actual opinion shtick. Personally, yeah, I think they're sorry. If you take away any message from my videos on the Sleepy Cabin members, it's that people do change, and just because you said something in 2016 that was okay then but is now considered pretty cringe, you're allowed to grow and move past that.
I don't think I've changed a whole lot as a person. I think I've just learned a lot more about what the world is and about more people in the world. Because I grew up in Florida, like we've discussed before. Sure. So I grew up in that environment, and I thought that a lot of things were okay that weren't okay. So I was making jokes about that stuff that wasn't okay. And as I learned more about more people's experience, I was like, no. And I think that you can look back at a lot of the stuff I did that was during that time, that was quote unquote edgy. Sure. And you can see like, it was as good natured as you could be making those jokes. Sure. Or it wasn't making jokes at the expense of anybody. I was just like using language that I probably shouldn't have used.
In September 2021, the Game Grumps announced they were opening a Patreon, with the promise of exclusive content as the juicy bait for any willing to pay.
Hey, name placeholder.
How's your day going? How's the weather in
placeholder?
Begin your exclusive partnership with Dan and I, or Dan and me. It should be Dan and me.
Either one's good.
On Patreon.
Assalamu alaikum. In late 2021, Dan would marry his wife, Ashley Anderson, first announcing the development at the end of a Game Grumps episode.
I just wanted to share a little good news going on in my life. About 4 or 5 months ago, depending on whenever this episode goes up, my fiance Ashley and I got married.
Wow!
Yippee! 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 Yippee!
The community was overwhelmingly supportive of the new couple, but a few were quick to point out the significant age gap between the two. In the wake of everything concerning Dan's behavior with younger fans, people did some theorizing and wondered if this relationship had started in a similar manner. Man, when do I get to start to leverage the Node Armstrong media empire for wives? I get no respect. In May, Aaron would appear at Creator Clash, facing the Bacon Man Harley Morenstein. He did, I'll just play the clip.
Come on, get off me, you! I'm gonna get you, Aaron. I'm stopping the fight!
He was, without a doubt, the fan favorite, having a far larger active fan base than the Bacon Man. Actually, just with Harley specifically, like, at all the weigh-ups and pre-fight panels, he seemed to be taking everything way more seriously than everyone else. Like, it was a pretty wholesome Chungus event, but Harley, like, cut into Aaron, and you can see how uncomfortable everyone's getting with his weirdly out-of-place aggression.
But the people that watch Game Grumps fucking suck. Because the people that watch Game Grumps, they're not out there being real people. They're not real people. They're weird fucking mutant people, and I'm not just saying it like I'm making it up. My Twitter timeline is filled with people like, Aaron's gonna fuck you up. And then I look at them, their display pic, it's like muscular Shrek sucking his own dick. I swear. And I'll look at these people that are like, Aaron's gonna fuck you up. I'll click on their media on Twitter. They draw like humanoid dogs fucking each other. Those are the people that watch Game Grumps. So I like Aaron, but tomorrow I'm going off because of all those fucking weirdos on my timeline. It's your fault. So tomorrow, Aaron, I'm gonna fuck you till you love me, friend.
Despite this setback, Aaron would evidently continue to train as a fighter, and would set his sights upon returning the following year. Oh look, he has a little Game Grumps avatar on his penis. Oh, that's cute.
Alright, there's nothing wrong with anthropomorphic animals fucking each other, okay? Can I just say that out loud? As long as you're not hurting anybody, draw whatever the hell you want, going into whatever the hell else you want.
You can't draw whatever the hell you want. Trust me, you can't. There's a lot of things you can't just draw.
In October of 2022, the Grumps would announce a reboot to their Patreon, with an increased focus on exclusive content rather than small rewards and a firm thank you. This change took the form of removing the $1 tier, making the $5 tier the lowest option for supporters. They then added a $10 tier, which gave full access to everything they would be making going forward. People understandably were unhappy with this. The Grumps' justification was that they would use this new money to fund bigger and better projects to give back to the fans. But many were quick to point out that the main reason why people like the Grumps is just the banter between its members. And you can accomplish just talking to each other for not a lot of money. I'm aware Game Grumps is an incredibly expensive thing to run, so I'm not against them trying to optimize income. But when you're watching a video that's monetized by YouTube and has a sponsor segment, and the first thing in the description is a link to the Patreon, you kind of have to wonder where their priorities lie. In September of 2023, the garage sale fiasco had its long-awaited sequel, when one of the venues for their live shows in Dallas, Texas was woefully unprepared for the grumping that was about to commence. For some reason, the venue didn't provide seats, so everyone was just crammed in there standing for around 3 hours, in a venue filled way beyond capacity. This was made even worse by the blazing Texas heat, not to mention the aforementioned crowd making it almost impossible to move around and get drinks. It also didn't help that most people just couldn't fucking see the stage. Following the event, the community exploded into a tempest of mild complaints, and clearly the organizers were aware they had fucked up, as they began offering 50% refunds to attendees. In 2023, Aaron would return with his head held high to create a Clash 2.
He wipes from front to back, gives the best kisses, and actually really likes Sonic the Hedgehog.
This time fighting Jarvis Johnson, who makes, I don't know, content. Damn, this fight was something. Like the shit that you see when two of your friends are play fighting and things get a bit real. But Aaron won, hooray!
Here's your winner by TKO.
In June 2023, Game Grumps Studio would release their third and most recent game to date, Homebody, a psychological thriller about some girl going insane in a house. It's got like PS2 graphics, that's neat. It's very much all in the head type meme. Going off the Steam sales, this one did even worse than Soviet Jump Game, with the main critiques being the incredibly short length, only a few hours, and a total lack of replayability. But in terms of tangible events involving Game Grumps, that's kind of it. 2024 was pretty much absent of any notable drama, and so far this year is no different, with them chugging along, shitting out content for YouTube and Patreon. Some people have said everything now feels very half-assed, but I have to disagree. When you look at the sheer quantity of videos they make, it's clear they still spend a hell of a lot of time recording. But as far as large-scale exploration of new content styles or insane new shakeups in the crew, I think they're finished. Today, I think Game Grumps exists in this weird content limbo, where their styles of content and production cycle are so successful and their approach to inter-channel relations and drama so controlled, I can't see any event or change to YouTube that would possibly make them want to stop doing what they're doing or adjust their video style. From learning from past mistakes and employee-related drama, romantic controversies, and event disasters, I think they've cracked the code on how to be a controversy-free channel. This is also why it kind of makes it hard to talk about them with any serious hate or degree of passion. How Game Grumps became a uniquely hated channel? Like, what? They have a ranting subreddit that shoots people down who just mindlessly complain with no reason. If Aaron was crypto grifting and Dan was transporting women to a compound in the Nevada desert, then maybe people would have more to say. It's always exciting to talk about a downfall. People have an unspeakable desire to stare at burning car crashes and Chinese factory accidents, and YouTubers are no exception. But with Game Grumps, there's absolutely no downfall to speak of. If anything, they're in a better position than they've ever been. While their original audience may have moved on, they've been able to maintain relevance by appealing to a new generation of internet users, which for major YouTube channels is a pretty rare feat. Like, they still do fucking numbers. Christ. But to facilitate this changing of audience, they turn from genre pioneers, single-handedly proving you can make an actual business from being silly online, into followers of whatever is currently popping off in the algorithm. This is usually where I'd put in a section theorizing what the future may hold for the Grumps, and how they could quote-unquote course correct. But like, these guys have more money than God, and still have an active fan base in the millions. Like, why the fuck, as undeniably shrewd businessmen, would they listen to rant Grumps and other similar detractors, who are only a fraction of the size of their actual active fan base? They're gonna keep chugging on, playing games, making merch, and increasing the amount of content behind that exclusive Patreon paywall. But what does fascinate me is their respective ages. Aaron is 40 and Dan is approaching 50. A lot of people would instinctively say, hey, if you play video for a living, why would you ever want to retire? But they've been in the public eye for the past decade. That is incredibly stressful. At some point, one of them is gonna want to take a step back and enjoy life. And when this happens, I'm curious to see what they'll do with the channel. Aaron himself stated he doesn't want to retire until he's certain everyone who works for him is in a good financial position.
when do you say, okay, I've done enough?
Well, there's two factors, right? There's whether or not I can support myself doing that, but also the people that work for Game Grumps, because I care about them immensely. I really want to make sure that they're in a place where they're comfortable enough to either like get another job where they can be paid at least as much as I'm paying them, or, you know, they're set enough to do whatever their creative endeavors are that they want to do, right?
I'm skeptical as to how truthful that is. I think he has enough hypothetical V-Bucks to set everyone loose whenever he wants. The truth, I think, demonstrated throughout this video is that for Aaron, business comes first, and he's not going to cash out until he's sure every dollar has been squeezed from Game Grumps. You can't deny, however, that the Grumps have had a net positive influence on the world around them. They've created a community that's overwhelmingly positive, sometimes, have raised a shit ton of money for charity, and over their entire careers haven't done anything expressly evil, which is pretty rare for YouTubers. And God knows, most of what they make is still better than 80% of the shit that winds up on homepage. So hopefully they'll be able to carry on like this, for however long they're able. Hey guys, if you liked what you saw, please feel free to subscribe, or check out another one of my videos, or maybe even take a gander at my highly political Twitter. I'm sorry this took so long to get out, I've been absolutely swamped, but thank you so much for watching. I can now go full steam back into making videos, and I got a lot of exciting stuff on the way. Thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.